All right, teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the show. Welcome to the number one show on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. To my regular listeners, this is what we do here. You already know how we get down every single day. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have the opportunity, whether it's just myself talking or I bring somebody on. We are here to serve you. We are here to help you. We're here to give you just something that's going to make the moment a little bit better for you. We have today Mr. Robert Hunt, who calls himself the accountability guy. And, when I heard that word accountability, it was like music to my ears, man. So, with all that, before I make the intro too long, Robert, welcome to the show. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fantastic. It's a little earlier for a podcast this morning, so I was tending to see if I got the bags out up from underneath my eyes. I
Yes,
get up, I get up like at 4:30 or 5 every morning, but I don't talk to people. I just sit on
likewise.
the couch.
I've been up, yeah, I've been up since about four around that same time. I run every morning, so I don't start my days without a run and get my mind right because what we do, it's what we have to do if we're really gonna be in this thought leadership world and serve the people the way we say we want to serve the people. So, all that being said, you have a brand, a framework, a philosophy that's called Nobody Cares, and there's so many things about what you're about that I ask myself, I say to myself, nobody just wakes up one morning and says, okay, I want to be the accountability coach. Nobody wakes up and says, I want to write a book that says nobody cares, right? So can you just go in a little bit on your background, what you were about, like kind of the things that you've done in the past that has led you to the point where you have put it out there that, hey, you're going to be the guy that holds other folks accountable and things of that nature?
Yeah, I certainly am not doing it because I am perfect in that I am completely accountable to everything all the time. But I've learned that accountability is freedom. And I watched it really was from the core of my 16-year-old son as he was turning that corner and starting to own his life at about 15 and a half. We made him a man, had a sword ceremony, took all these men in his life and we
Hmm.
said a blessing over him. And I said, so effectively tonight, man, you're a man. So own it. And going forward, you have to start earning money and take care of your own expenses. And you have the
Really?
freedom. You could do whatever you want from now on, but you have to own everything. And it was just this whole process of watching him be. We'd been talking about it for many years, but to watch him, to try and own that, his natural reaction was to blame and make excuse, and like many people do, certainly kids who blame their teachers, blame their coach, blame you make excuses for why they're not getting playtime or why they didn't do this or that. And so at the end of the day, I watched him go through this journey. And there were a lot of times where I'd say, James, wait, stop. Nobody cares if you have a bad teacher. Nobody cares if you have a bad coach. What they care is that you're not performing. You're not getting it done. And so when you get married, your family, your wife, your kids, they won't care that you have a jerk boss. They're just going to wish we had enough food to eat. And so I need you to start thinking about how do I own this process? So as I walked him through it, starting when he was about 16 years old, he got tired of me saying nobody cares. And I
Mhm.
realized that that's a really hurtful phrase, but it is something sometimes we need someone to just kind of smack us in the face and go, stop it. Because for our own benefit, we're very comfortable making these excuses and blaming things. And the world rallies around us and goes, yeah, you're right. You do have a jerk boss. Yeah, your ex-wife, she was horrible.
Mhm.
And it makes us feel comfortable with the way we're being a victim.
Mhm.
And nobody wants to be a victim. No one says, I think I'd be a victim, please. But at the end of the day, the way they live, it shows that they're doing it. They're just not aware of it most of the time.
Mhm.
And so I just felt like I needed to tell the story. And so my friend Salem Dine and I, we got together and we'd write out stories and structure and following the model of the accountability ladder that
Mhm.
we would use that as the core of it. But we changed it to the idea of climbing a mountain. And we put it all together and hired a publicist and went to market with it in 2022. And ever
Mhm.
since then, we've been trying to champion helping people understand accountability is not a bad word. It kind of feels punitive when you say, I'm gonna hold you accountable.
Exactly right.
These
It's
kind of words sound negative, but they're very freeing. They're very freeing. And I walked it in my own life.
Yeah. So, first of all, I think it's incredibly important that you do that for your son at 16 because I actually remember being in high school and I had a coach, shout out to Coach McFadden, but it wasn't me, but he was talking to another one of the players and he would say, misery loves company. and misery. And
Hmm.
at that age, you're very impressionable. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. You can develop some horrible, horrible habits where you're complaining so much about a boss. Okay, you're gonna get a friend that you agrees with you, and they're gonna kind of live in that victim mentality where okay, it's the boss's fault. Okay, coach didn't play me. Okay, it's the coach's fault. It's this everyone's fault but your own. And you're gonna get very few people, if any, that just say, look, maybe you got to look at your own shit. Maybe you got to look at your own self and say,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe this is the reason this is
Well,
happening.
they won't say that because if they say that, they're putting the light on their own excuses. If
Hmm.
I call you out, then the light shines on me too, because I'm the one saying the exact same thing. So nobody wants to call anyone's victimhood out
Right.
because we're playing the victim ourselves. We don't call it that. We just say it's outside of our comfort zone.
Yes.
Or, we say words that make people feel bad for us, which feels good for a moment, but all it does is take away the desire to change anything. I
Right.
don't need people telling me I'm okay and that you're right in your position. I need people to say, "What are you going to do about it, man?"
Hmm. So what were the moments, I should say, in which, and this is for any, whether you're a parent or a business owner that's listening in, what were some of the moments where you started to see your son shift in terms of, hey, now he's starting to get it. Now was it like, was he losing friends? Was it a matter of, okay, dad, I'm gonna go take the trash out, I'm gonna do this, walk us through some of those moments in which you started to realize, okay, this thing's working.
Yeah, it was very slow. It was really slow. I think we don't do our kids a service by letting them have the easy way. And in a mindset as an adult to say, "Well, I want to take care of my kid, make his life better than my life was, and do all these things," I think we don't give them much chance for success because of that. He had to move from being pretty much just have fun to now you have to generate income. And it
Mhm.
was real hard for him. There's a lot in that going to talk to people you don't know. And he started two companies. One, he would drive people to the airport in our neighborhood, kind of a kid
Mhm.
Uber, but it
Mhm.
was only for our neighbors. And so they all knew him and we trusted them. And then the other one was a handyman service. And he didn't know how to do anything about handyman service stuff. So I would do every job with him. And at the beginning, I did most of the work and he'd watch me, but I
Mhm.
wanted to teach him this. So
Mhm.
I think the thing that really turned was when someone outside of me started saying, "Hey, you said you're going to be here at 2 o'clock and you weren't here. What happened? Hey,
Mhm.
you said you were going to have this fixed in one day and you still have my door." Like he took someone's door off to repair it and it didn't come back for like a month. And they're
Uh-huh.
like, "We really want our door back, man."
Right.
And so I think as other people started to call him out, he started to realize it's not his dad just busting his chops.
Yeah.
It's really that the whole world will actually expect this of us. We live in a little cocoon and we blame all the people around us because they're irritating to us. But when you get out there, the whole world actually expects you to do something. They just don't have the audacity to tell you the truth. And so
Yeah.
they coddle you and they just kind of work around it. But
Yeah.
that's when you lose a job and that's when you lose a spouse and that's when you go broke and go into debt and
Yeah.
all those things that people don't want to talk the awkward conversation so you can
Yeah.
stay in your victim role.
Yeah, I 1000% agree with so much of that. And I ask myself now as you're talking, how do you get that communicated to business owners with employees? I gotta tell you, Robert, I mean, me being in the world I've been in, whether it's athletics, whether it's fitness, whether it's education, I mean, I have seen so many what's the best way to say this? It's probably hands off bosses. All right, we'll say it in a nice, polite way. Hands off bosses to the point where people would be coming in late. That's the word you use that just triggered me. The coddling throughout the workday. The okay, this was this one's fault. It's never my fault. And I've tried to communicate these things. How are you able to get that communicated to the people that have so stuck into that mentality that you're like, look, I mean, I done got to the point where it's like, look, once I see signs of it, I'm moving, I'm going somewhere that gets it. But floor is yours to speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, I get that. It's frustrating. However,
Yes.
most people do not understand what it means to be truly accountable. We've
Mhm.
got to educate them because in your own world, we're so comfortable with the four things that we do when we realize we're supposed to be accountable. In many cases, we're just kind of booking through life, not really seeing the level of accountability that's required of us. But when we finally do come to that moment where we realize, wait, I'm accountable for this, then we blame. And blame everybody does because there's always something wrong. The government, geez, You know,
Oh, yes, my
you're
goodness. Too early for politics. Too
yeah. You
early for
no matter what side of the aisle
I'm
you're on,
telling
you
you.
could blame anybody all day long. It doesn't change. You could blame your boss, you could blame the economy, you could blame the Russians who are listening to us right now.
I'm
You know, all these
telling you,
things that we could blame.
man.
And if that doesn't work, we move to excuses. Well, I had a problem here. My parents didn't love me. Well, I have this problem. All these things that we come up with, and then everyone goes, "Yeah, that's fair. That's right," because we want to hold on to our excuses. Again, it's this confidently encouraging people to be dysfunctional because it protects our own journey. And if
Mhm,
the blame and excuse don't work, then we turn around and we say, "Well, I can't do that. Yeah, I
mhm,
can't take a job that pays me less, even though I would really, really want to do that. I'd want to work for this company because I would make less money." Well, when you're out of a job and you're not making any money, less money is more than no money. But
mhm.
we in our mind think, well, that's not a good deal for me and I deserve more. Well, you deserve what you can get. So
Right.
if the blame excuse, say you can't, and then you wait and hope. And that was our story with Kathy, my beautiful wife and I. We, in 2019, we owed $90,000 in debt. And that was not counting the house or the cars.
Oh my
And
gosh.
we had got bit by bit, year after year, spending more money than we should. And we all of a sudden got to a place where we were angry. We were angry at each other. We were frustrated. We don't get to go on vacations anymore because we're so heavy in debt. We
Mm,
have this beautiful house with the movie theater upstairs and all these wonderful things, but we couldn't afford it and we were trapped. And so in 2019, we just said, look, if we got to own this, we got to make changes. And if God doesn't bless us, which is a great word that we throw around a lot of times, is God going to bless you? Well, He blessed me with a beautiful wife who loves me, and my kids don't have a disease, and I live in Texas, the greatest state in America. So I have all these things going on, and yet I would say, well, you didn't give me enough. And so we got to this place, we just realized we got to own this, and nobody cares if we're broke and miserable and fighting with each other unless we care enough to do something about it. So
right.
we had blame, we had excuse, and so we decided let's sell the house and start over. We
Mhm,
have equity in the home. Why not use that to restart our lives? And
mhm.
then we said, well, we can't sell our house. That would be awkward. Where are we going to go? How are we going to do this? And we argued with ourselves for a while, but at one point it got to a place where the pain of where we were was so miserable that we just decided we got to do this. And
Right.
that's when we pulled the trigger. We hired a real estate agent. We sold the house and moved into a little rental where we live right now
Mm,
since March of 2020. Paid off all of our debt in April, and we've been debt free ever since. And the
wow.
freedom that came by owning our story and our junk led to this ripple effect of everything getting better, going to counseling, losing weight, working on issues that we'd ignored because we felt trapped and buried by one issue. And it was this amazing light turning on of freedom for everything else.
I think that's so powerful what you just said because you mentioned having a house that's big enough to actually have a theater in it, right? Yet still having to owe money and you and your wife, who's also your partner, your peer, someone that you go to in regards to just everything, your counsel just saying, look, let's look each other in the eye, be honest with each other, and say, we don't need this big house. Let's sell it. Let's cut our losses and let's do what is right. Right. And I'd like for you to dive deeper into that concept of having the right people around you because it doesn't
Mm.
necessarily have to be your wife. It could be a best friend. It could be a coworker. It could be whoever you choose to be a part of your inner circle. Like, for example, I would say things like, the other black men, hey, we're not victims, or I'm tired of being the victim mentality. I'm tired of having that conversation where just because we're black, we're not getting certain things. And there's other black men who would tell me, well, we are victims. Those are the kind of people I cut off immediately. All right. I don't want them in my circle. I don't want them in my peer group because I'm so tired of hearing that same rhetoric. Can you go in a little bit about how you evaluate your peer group, how you evaluate your friends, and how you evaluate the people that are around you so you are able to make these decisions that are going to be beneficial to your future.
Yeah, that's exactly why I lead CEO peer groups. I've been doing this for 13 years.
That's it.
And the reality of that is that we need to surround ourselves with people who make us better, not bring us down. And it's very subtle because we've become comfortable with the people we've known for so long. But the truth of it is, the people that you hang out with now who condone and appreciate or coddle you in your current mindset will probably not be the ones that will help you press forward with a different life. When I told people I'm selling my house and starting over, like, whoa, 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 whoa. why don't you do this? Why don't you do a Dave Ramsey's program where over the next 25 years you pay it down? 25 years, I'll be dead. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
And
we had a previous guest. Shout out to Brandon. He runs a company named Wealth Wisdom Financial, and he said he started to insinuate some of the same things about Dave Ramsey. So Dave Ramsey,
nothing against Dave Ramsey. I'm just saying that for me and my journey, the idea of going to, five years, let's take 5 years,
yeah,
5 years payout. I mean, that I don't have the kind of attention span for a 5 year
exactly.
payout.
Yeah, he was mentioning some of those things. So shout out, you
Yeah.
said shout out to Dave Ramsey. Everybody's financial situation is different. So anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. So when Kathy and I decided this is what we wanted to do, we would share with some people that were in our inner circle, and many of them thought, "Hey, you're being kind of a zealot. Let's not get all wound up and all this." But you have to decide what your life looks like. We put a satisfaction assessment in the book. After the end of the first chapter, there's two wheels, and we want you to fill it out. You can actually go to our website and do it for free without even owning the book, nobodycaresbook.com, and you can fill out the satisfaction assessment right then and there. You can declare to yourself, am
Mhm.
I satisfied with all these different areas? And when you realize you're not satisfied with something, then the question is, what are you going to do about it? And then if you go to blame, excuse, say you can't, or wait and hope, you realize you're playing a victim role. But
Mhm.
if you really own it and you really say, look, nobody cares if my marriage is bad, or if my health is bad, or if I don't have any money, unless I care enough to do something about it, then you begin the opportunity to change from being a victim and pursue a victorious lifestyle. And that's the thing that we had to look for, was people who bought in to where we were going
Mhm.
and would support us with our initiative. And sometimes you need new friends when you decide to own your junk and turn it around.
It is important, and it is important too for you listeners as well to pay attention to the point where he said it's very subtle. It is so subtle. It is like to the point where it can blindside you when you look up 10, 15 years down the line. You're looking around people, you're like, wait a minute, we're talking about this. I love that scene in 8 Mile where I don't know if you see the movie 8 Mile with Eminem, but he goes off on his friends. It's about him trying to come up as a rapper. He goes, all we ever do is talk shit. All we ever do is talk shit. No, what we got to do is do something. We got to just shut the hell up, and we're so broke as hell, right? And that brings me to the next thing I wanted to make sure we talk about today is, are there any examples or any situations in which you have gone to business owners, or you gone to people and they've applied this method, the method that you used, and it's made a significant change in their business, whether it's their personal or their professional development? Go ahead and kind of speak on anything that has happened like that.
Yeah, yeah. In our CEO groups, we focus on personal and professional. I don't think you can just do a peer group where you
Can't do
just
both.
focus on
I
one
mean, can't do
category.
one. Can't got to
Yeah,
do. You're right. Cannot do
yeah.
just.
The reality is there's no difference between our personal life and our work life. It's still me at both places. It's just doing a
Exactly.
little different. At home, it's still work. I got chores. I gotta help the kids read. There's always work. You never stop working unless you're playing.
Right.
And most
And
of the time we're
I got to
working.
pause you on that point because, again, every time this comes up, I want to make sure I re-emphasize it to the listeners. Work ain't a bad thing, folks. I know you've been conditioned and it's kind of been in your head that work is something negative. There's a negative connotation of work. I want to debunk that myth right here and right now. Work is a part of life and is not a bad thing. It is a good thing to work. You just have to enjoy it. It's not a bad thing. All right. So go ahead. I just make sure I want to make sure I re-emphasize that as often as I possibly can.
Well, have me back another time. We'll talk about the concept of margin, where you create a
Well,
world
absolutely. Yeah.
where there's room for you to live the life you want. Work is part of that journey,
Mhm.
and when we're at work, we should be ourselves at work. So there's a consistency of who we are.
Mhm.
But in the case of asking how these has it worked within the business world, my clients, they're humans, and so they come to work with all their marriage and kids and health and family problems, and then they're trying to lead their team with a big bag of crap over their shoulder of the life that they've lived, and
Mhm.
they're trying to stay focused. And so when we talk about accountability, we just talk about whatever thing you're going through, you just have to own it. That's the simplest word of accountability. You own it. And
Mhm.
so when we brought this principle to our groups, I saw people change their health. I saw people go into counseling for themselves and for their marriage. I saw people look at their P&L. And when we have meetings, we put our P&L up on the screen and let everyone look at it. And when someone looks at your P&L and says, gee, that's all the profit you're making? What's the point about having all this revenue if you don't get to keep any of it? And
Mhm.
letting people see past the curtain is really, really helpful. And so as these business owners have decided, I want to be real radically transparent so people can help me, it has helped them make really healthy decisions in their business, stop them from going down a road they shouldn't go to. That's the benefit of a peer group. You are vulnerable. Your vulnerability creates the opportunity for accountability. And if you really, really want accountability, you got to surround yourself with other people who can call you out on your BS and go, man, that's not right. You got to do this differently.
So if there's anyone listening in, who would be someone that's ideal for you to work with directly? Because as I can already tell as you're talking, you're not going to just work with anybody. You're not just going to bring anybody into your interview because it becomes something that can be a headache trying to reframe a person who is stuck in a way. Who is someone that you ideally would like to work with, and what do they have to bring to the table for the relationship to really work out?
They have to want to be their best.
Hmm.
There's lots of business owners in the DFW area, thousands and thousands of them, but many people are okay with being okay. And that's fine. But for me in my world, I have a limited amount of time I'm willing to give to my day job
Yes.
to free me up to enjoy time with my beautiful wife and friendships and rest and growing. And so in those period of time I'm going to devote to it, I want people who really want to be their best. Look at all these goofy things I do. I'm so sorry.
How did that happen? Yeah, that was
I guess that's a Facebook. That's a Macintosh. I don't know.
oh
Anyway,
man.
sorry about that. I love you. I just
That's
want to tell you
awesome.
I love you, man.
Yeah,
It was, I didn't
by
have
the
any other
way,
way to
yeah,
tell you.
let me explain. If you listen to his audio, so he just made a heart sign and a bunch of hearts just came up, and that kind of is. I'm old school, man. I'm not a technology guy, so I
No
don't know
problem.
how that happened.
So for me, it's really about where I can make a change. I
Yeah,
think God's going to keep me around for another 20, 30 years. Who knows? I'm
yeah.
61, but I don't plan to retire. So
Mhm.
if you want to be your best, if you want to own it, if you want to get things done, I love to talk to people like that. Not that they're the smartest, bestest, most successful, but they're the one who want it the most. Those people I can help.
Right. All right. So, and also make sure before I let you go, I do want to be respectful of your time, but can you just speak on the book, the project of the book, and how that actually came about as well? Because again, the title, Nobody Cares, is one of those things that you have to be in a certain state for it to actually represent because you have to be in a place where complaining, and you have to kind of be awakening in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So whether it's the brand, whether it's the title, nobody cares. Go ahead. The floor is yours to kind of speak
Well,
on
I
it.
think that was it. It was to awaken people. You walk by a book, there's 480 books a day that get
Yes,
released into the market.
yes.
And we thought if our book was on a bookshelf somewhere and someone walked by and saw nobody cares, what is that? And
Mhm.
so with the limited amount of space that we'd have in someone's attention span, we wanted to capture it quickly. And that was the key phrase. And in the whole process, complain, complain, don't do anything, make all the excuses. Wait, nobody cares. Now own it.
Mhm.
And so we just felt like since that's the turning point, the book was originally going to be called Peak Accountability, Your Journey from Victim to Victor. And it's so lame,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
we
Exactly.
really felt that nobody cares was the right way to go.
Uh-huh.
And then we hired a publicist because we knew he's running two businesses and I have my own business. And we knew we weren't going to get this done. So we paid someone to ghostwrite and to do the work and to get the website going. And it
Okay.
was worth it because we want to change lives. And the book turned out to be very powerful because we hired professionals to do it.
Yeah, actually, and this is actually another quick tip for you listeners, especially anybody that's thinking about putting a book out there or starting a business, but it has to be part of the conversation. I remember when I first worked at a gym, I was 18 years old or something like that. And the people we'd have conversations as I check people in, and they would ask me how I'm doing. I'd say, can't complain, can't complain. And they would always respond because nobody's gonna care as it is. They would always say that no one's gonna care, even if you did complain. So, it's definitely a part of the conversation. It's definitely something that all of us need to hear when we start slipping down that road because it is a very easy road to slip down. So, all that being said, Robert, can you just talk about what's next, what you plan to build on? You sort of mentioned it a little bit when you mentioned your age, you're young, 61, but talk a little bit about what you see as the future going into your company and how people can get in touch with you.
I plan to be on the road I'm at doing the work I do with my clients. I love what I do, but
Mhm.
I'm excited about workshops. I want to take the Nobody Cares workshop around the world. We've
Mhm.
done two workshops this year. Our first two workshops, the first one was sold out, and the second one we did really good with attendance, and people really owned it and applied it. we're never going to make enough money to retire off this book. Heck, we got to sell 50,000 copies to break even. But what
Mhm,
we'd like to do is to change lives. So
mhm,
if you have a team or a company or an organization anywhere in the world and you want to have them understand the principles of real accountability and how it can change your life and your business, we want to come take you through a workshop. And so that I think is my future, because it's one thing to read a book and go, oh, that was really cool. It's
mhm,
another thing to read a book and change your life. And
mhm.
these books I have on my shelf up here, they changed my life, and that's why they're there. And I want people to have Nobody Cares as part of their conversation, as part of their life, helping them own it and have a life that's fulfilling and satisfied. And so I think my future is workshops. That's where I'm excited.
All right. And what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
You can go to nobodycaresbook.com and you can contact me, and my information's all over there. For this particular podcast, I put together a website called nobodycarespod.com, nobodycarespod.com. And if you'll go on there and put in your contact information, use the password as one, then I will mail you a copy of my book for the first two people.
Oh man, we getting free gifts. Listeners, this is like you are probably about, I think like the third or fourth, I'm not, might be the fifth person that has given my listeners a free gift, a free book. So again, you guys tune in. There was a discount codes. Guys, tune in. You get freebies, you get opportunities, man. So Robert, I appreciate that. I will definitely take you up on that offer because I myself want to make sure I consume that book as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you for that.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on the show. I'd love to come back and talk about other topics that my CEOs and business owners have found valuable. And you're a great host, so thanks for having me on the show.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll definitely I'll also take you up on because I do see myself as, making sure I'm hosting panels and creating opportunities for business owners to just get in front of more people like you and get the ones, kind of pick the ones out that really do want to be successful and are willing to maybe downsize, sell the Ferrari that they had and do the things that they need to do in their personal life to make it so they sacrifice for their business and their business and their personal lives and things like that. So all that being said, Robert, the final thing I do with all the shows is I want you to use your imagination a little bit and pretend it's just you and, let's say, 15-year-old son. He's getting ready to be 16, and you were in that place where it's time to man him up and say, "Hey, all right, this is the real world now." Just pretend that version of you has come back into the Zoom room. Give him some words of encouragement, and we'll officially close.
Hmm. Know who you are, know who created you, know why you exist, and go pursue that with everything you got.
Amen to that. Amen to that. I would drop the mic on that. Officially dropping the mic. All right. All that being said, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.